Another day of training camp practice in the books here at the Centura Health Training Center. It's day 10 of training camp, and the team had some more red zone work and 2-minute drills. We'll hear from head coach Sean Payton as he evaluated the team's work. Plus, we'll have a one-on-one interview with NFL Network's Rapoport. All that and more coming up on Broncos Camp Daily. What's up, Broncos country? Thanks for tuning in for today's episode of Broncos Camp Daily. I'm Sydney Jones alongside former Broncos safety Nick Ferguson and Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla. Guys, it was day 10 of training camp here today, and the offense looked like they turned a new page. Russell Wilson looked sharper, and so did the first team offense. What did you guys think of practice today?
I was happy about what I saw with the first team offense. Some bright spots, and for me, it was all about building that confidence. And to see Russell kind of move the ball down the field, probably his best practice to date. And I'm sure Sean Payton was really happy about what he saw up front. The blocking was where it needed to be, but there were still some issues as far as false starts, and we'll get to that later on.
Yeah, wait, so let me get this right, Nick. As practice goes on, as they learn the offense a little bit better, as they get more reps, Russell Wilson looks better out here. Is that right?
Yes!
Okay.
What a concept.
I'm just making sure I got that straight. Yeah, I did think Russell Wilson did some nice things. The offense did some nice things. The first 2-minute drill did not go particularly well, but then you rebound, you respond. We heard Lloyd Cushenberry talk about that, and it's not necessarily about how you start a game or what you do at the end of the second quarter. It's about, can you get that drive when you really need it? That last situation where the Broncos scored a touchdown, Russell Wilson throws a 47-yard pass to Jerry Jeudy with just 24 seconds left. They're down 6 points. And that's not an easy scenario to be put in. They found a way to get it done. It was the best moment for the offensive training camp so far.
Definitely agree, Aric. And I know head coach Sean Payton, he's talked a lot about different, situations and these installations they're making during practice. And he said it's so important to get that work in now, because when it comes to the season, he wants everyone on the sideline to be on the same page.
This game has a tendency to lead to, well, if it doesn't pertain to me, then I don't need to know it. And there's certain things that I think pertain to most everyone. And those are the ones that we're discussing as a group. And I want, in a perfect world, the sideline to be thinking exactly how I'm thinking when these things arise. Players, this is what and I'm looking at them smiling like, you got it. And that's being a smart football team. And so, but we've got a board of 48 of them in there, 50 of them. We check them off. We put a check every time we've covered it. And hopefully by the start of the regular season, we've hit these things 2 or 3 times. We'll have a half an hour where we'll just cover it. We have a video library of these situations that we can actually show them. This is what happened. This is why. This is the mistake made, or maybe this is what was done well. But there's so many of those things that can come up in a game that I think you have to individually address them.
Today was day 6 of training camp practice in a row for this team, and I liked what Center Lloyd Cushenberry had to say following practice today. He talked about building callus and how this time is really supposed to be hard for the team.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, because it is training camp. This is where you want to make the bulk of your mistakes, because it gives the coaches an opportunity to go back in those meeting rooms, figure out what's going on, and then come up with a game plan. Because the idea of being a coach is you got to figure out what your players can and can't do and put them in the best situation for them to succeed. So Cushenberry was right. I liked what I was seeing here today, and I'm hoping that momentum continues before we get into that first game in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this team needed to get a little bit tougher. We talked about that all offseason, talked about that at the end of last year even. And this is a way that you do it, right? You go out there, you practice 6 days in a row. There was one where they, didn't have full pads on just because of NFL rules. I'm sure if that wasn't a rule, maybe they would have been out there in full pads again. But they're working really hard out there. And as Lloyd mentioned, when you get to the season, you get to week 8, week 9, then that maybe feels a little bit easier. This is supposed to feel like the hard part of the season, and they're putting that work in. And look, the rate of injuries hasn't necessarily gone up. They certainly have had some guys go down, but it's not at a higher rate. So it's all about that risk reward. But there's a lot of focus on last year and the training camp schedule from a year ago. But it's been harder than the last several years. I mean, this is not just compared to 2022. When you look back at the last several years here, they're working these guys. Nick, maybe not as many tackling drills as you would like, but they're still running some of them. They're doing 9-on-7. They're doing these 1-on-1s.
Right.
I mean, they're pushing these guys. And at the end of 6 days in a row, I'd imagine you're tired, no matter how strenuous the practice is. I mean, they've been getting after it, and there's a mental drain too, right? You got to be dialed in for a whole week in a row.
Well, with an arduous season like this team is going to face, you have to be able to show that you can push through these moments. When we look at where this team wants to be, that's in the playoffs and ultimately in the Super Bowl, you have to be able to show that you have that mental toughness, because when the team is not performing well, the fans and the media are criticizing you, and things don't look like they're going the way that you want on the field, you want to know that you have the confidence in that locker room to really push through those situations. And sometimes you build that callus that you were talking about earlier. You do that during this hot time in the summer.
Yeah, it was definitely a great week of work for this team. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, we caught up with NFL Network's Ian Rapoport, and he just talked about Sean's philosophy at this point in the year.
There's one thing I know about Sean Payton is that he is intense, and I think you see it out here. And there's always an energy of training camp, and I'm not saying the previous practices weren't like that, but very detail-oriented, very intense, and everything has a reason. And so I think that's one of the reasons why Sean Payton has been good, is because he knows that generally his reasons are better than anyone else's reasons. He has been extremely successful. I don't know how long it'll take here. Sometimes it's instantaneous. Sometimes it takes a little bit, especially offensively, where it's a very, very well-run, proven offense, but complicated. So sometimes that can take time. But it basically looks like what I would see in New Orleans for several years, Now,
sticking with the offense, guys, it's been about 5 days now since Tim Patrick went down with his Achilles injury. And, of course, we heard as well that KJ Hamler will be taking some time off from football. So now that we've had a few practices in the books, what have you guys thought about some of the other wide receivers out there?
Well, for me, this is a great opportunity for a lot of those guys to step up. Humphrey Jordan and Marquez Callaway, two guys who are familiar with Sean Payton in this offense, dating back to their New Orleans days. It gives them an opportunity to step up. But I think the guy that everyone is looking to step up is Brandon Johnson. We've seen him early on in practice make some great catches. Now he has continued to, as we say, stack days, put those bricks together to make sure that he's building the confidence in the coaching staff. But this is an excellent opportunity for so many wide receivers to step up and try to figure out if they're going to be that fourth, fifth wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Brandon Johnson's certainly a guy who's made plays. I think you look at Marquez Callaway as a guy. Sean Payton did mention the other day he wants to see a little bit more out of Callaway, out of Humphrey. So we'll see how they stack those days as camp goes on. But maybe Marvin Mims can make a push here too. I mean, he's coming in as a rookie. Fans always expect rookies to come in and do something immediately. It takes some time here, but as the season progresses, as training camp progresses, and they see some action in the preseason, maybe he can make an impact too.
Yep, a guy you guys didn't mention was wide receiver Kendall Hinton, someone that Broncos country knows pretty well around here. Head coach Sean Payton mentioned the other day that this is a really important camp for him, and we had the chance to talk to him earlier and ask him how he hopes to stand out this year. Kendall, it's already day 10 of training camp. Just to start, how have things been going so far?
Yeah, it's been great. A lot of good competition out there. Guys flying around, learning a lot, getting these details in, and just going through the process.
Kendall, with the loss of Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler, how are you really hoping to take advantage of this opportunity here as, this team's really needing some receivers to step up?
Yeah, I hate it for those guys. Very unfortunate, but, we got guys that I think can step into that role. A lot of great competition in the receiver room, and, looking forward to seeing how guys step up and make plays.
Yeah, how are you looking to stand out in that room?
Continue to do what I do. Learn this offense, trying to grasp it as quick as possible, learn all the details, the in and outs, and, playing fast.
Yeah, I know head coach Sean Payton talked in his press conference the other day about this being a really important camp for you and how you have a chance to be that slot-type receiver. Is that how you see your role evolving here?
Yeah, I definitely feel comfortable in the slot, but at the end of the day, I want to be able to be on the field and help my team any way I can. So, grasping each and every wide receiver role, knowing the whole offense, and trying to make plays wherever I can.
Kendall, your infamous game at quarterback was versus Saints versus head coach Sean Payton. Have you had a chance to talk with him about it yet?
We haven't really had a one-on-one about it, but he did crack a few jokes early on during OTAs about the game. So yeah, that's the quick snippet we've had.
Well, the players will have a well-deserved day off tomorrow, and we'll be right back here on Monday for another practice before the team heads down to Arizona for the first preseason game.
Yeah, this is going to be great to see a lot of these guys get back out there and play. I mean, Lord Cushenberry hasn't played since October, so I know that's one of those guys who can't wait to get back on the field. And the great thing about it, I mean, you get a chance to hit someone else in a different uniform. You gotta love that. So I'm looking forward to seeing these guys go out there and really compete, because a lot of these roster spots are going to start to come into formation starting with the game in Arizona.
Yeah, and we don't know how much yet, but we do think the starters are going to play at least a little bit, and that, as Sean Payton mentioned here, includes Russell Wilson because he's a player just like everybody else.
Yep, exactly. Well, that'll do it for today's Broncos Camp Daily. For Aric DiLalla and Nick Ferguson, I'm Sydney Jones.